The bosses in Elden Ring are no joke. From gigantic dragons to menacing crystal-like bosses, there is always something lurking just beyond the corner. However, the game does a great job of equipping the player with enough skills to deal with each threat. One of these skills is the sorcery spell known as Comet Azur. Let's take a deeper look at the spell and how one can acquire it. How does Comet Azur work? If you are just starting out with a game or are only midway through, then you might not have even heard of this spell. This is because it is one of those late game items that require many hours before you run into it. Starting off with its bizarre name, which throws off many people, Comet Azur is spelled without the E at the end of Azur. It is a sorcery spell capable of absolutely annihilating and one-shotting some of the greatest bosses of the game. Remember Godric the Grafted or Margit the Fell Omen? These are some of the early game bosses that players often struggled with the most. Their crazy moveset and unforgiving attacks drove players crazy, and it seemed like no matter how many times you'd strike them, they simply would not go down. Well, surprisingly, with enough focus power and buildup, the Comet Azur spell can one-shot both of those enemies. You heard that correctly. The spell is insanely powerful. As you hold down the charge button, a blue mystical energy ball builds up at the end of your staff. Charging up the spell drains you of focus points, empowering the spell in the process. Once you release the attack, the magical spell bursts forth, shooting in a straight blue beam ahead, damaging anything in its path. This makes it a great ranged spell, allowing you to deal damage without risking your own safety by being up close. It all sounds amazing, but being able to meet the requirements before using it is not a piece of cake. The requirements for using Comet Azur. Comet Azur is a late game item for a reason. It requires you to have an intelligence level of 60 just to be able to use it, but that is just the minimum requirement. Realistically, you would need up to 70 points in intelligence to even come close to using it in its full glory. Aside from that, you would need points in mind and other attributes to make sure you do not get completely destroyed in battle. Considering all of these factors, it is safe to assume that even with a sorcerer build, you would need to be around level 100 to be able to leverage this monster of a spell. To put that into perspective, Astrologer, which is one of the starting base classes of the game, has the highest starting intelligence stats. Despite that, its starting points in intelligence are a mere 16. That is a whopping 44 more levels to go before you can even equip the spell. Furthermore, this special spell does not take up just one, but in fact 3 slots in your spell's inventory when you equip it. So unless you got the memory stone, you most likely will not be able to memorize any other spells with Comet Azur. And lastly, you will of course need some sort of staff to actually use the spell. A great starting staff for this purpose is the meteorite staff found in a swamp in Khalid. How to get the levels required for Comet Azur. In case you don't have the required intelligence level for Comet Azur, there are a few methods that you can employ to do so. These are mostly efficient rune farming techniques that go towards leveling up your character. One great method for this purpose is taking advantage of the boulder that tries to crush you in Lens Rise. Simply head over to the location, let the boulder spawn, and jump out of its way. Then, just fast travel back to the site of grace where you can rest and repeat the entire process. Doing this for about an hour should grant you at least 500,000 runes, depending on how efficient you are. These are more than enough to get you close to the required intelligence stats. Where to find Comet Azur? Now that we're all familiarized with the spell's capabilities and extremely demanding requirements, let's actually find it in the lands between. The spell itself can be found in Mt.Gelmir. The location is quite remote and would be hard to get to if you have no idea what you're doing. Luckily for you, we have the exact path for you. Head over to Seathwater Cave and begin your journey west along the ravine. It is important that you use your horse Torrent for this, as the path ahead is quite long and there will be enemies that you'd want to outrun. Keep heading straight until the ravine ends, from where onwards you'd want to take a slight left and up the hilly area. You will run into a pool of lava where there tends to be a dragon, but you can avoid it for now and stay on your straight pathway. You will eventually come by the craftsman's shack site of grace, indicating that you are on the right path. Keep heading forward until you reach the Hermit Village, which also has yet another boss at the end named Demi-Human Queen Maggie. If you're quick enough, you can slip past her to the primeval Sorcerer Azur site of grace directly behind her. Resting there will allow the boss to not be aggravated towards you. Look just behind the site of grace where you will spot a green crystalline corpse-like humanoid. Speaking to him will grant you the Comet Azur spell. With that, you will have possession of the spell and can begin wreaking havoc with it. Other gaming news. With Elden Ring taking the internet by a storm, it almost feels as if there is not much going on in the gaming world. However, there have been some interesting stories this week, so let's have a closer look at those. Dr. Disrespect and his lawsuit with Twitch. One of the biggest ongoing dramas in the gaming community surrounded the popular Twitch live streamer known as Dr. Disrespect. Back in June 2020, Doc was permanently suspended from the Twitch platform without any warning or a credible reason. In fact, no reason was given at all, leaving fans on the dock extremely confused. A year later, Guy Beam, aka Dr. Disrespect, launched legal action against Twitch over his ban. He claimed that the loss of his Twitch channel and audience not only damaged him financially, but also did a great ordeal over his reputation. The lawsuit was a very long process, with it not tilting to any of the parties' favor, but it seems as if the doc has decided to give in, as on Twitter, he announced that he has resolved his legal dispute with Twitch. He claimed that no party admits to any wrongdoing. This announcement was made via a card-like graphic with the doc's signature at the bottom. Twitch confirmed the settlement by sending an email to PC Gamer stating the exact same thing. No party admits to any wrongdoing. With that, it seems like the lawsuit chapter has closed in Doc's life, and he is willing to move on. With an audience of 3.8 million on YouTube and a great career in game development, the Doc still has a bright journey ahead of him. We wish you the best of luck, Dr. Disrespect. Steam Deck allows Windows. When the Steam Deck was announced, it promised that it could work as a PC, allowing you to install any OS on it as one pleased. At the time of its launch, the Steam Deck and its drivers were not ready to handle Windows, but now, with Valve's announcement on Thursday via a blog post, the deck is ready for Windows. Well, sort of. You see, alongside Windows, Valve also promised dual booting, but as of yet, it is not possible to do that with the Windows drivers installed. Valve stated that the dual boot wizard is simply not ready yet. Regardless, it is still good to see that Valve is delivering what they promised, and eventually we will get all the promised features. Installing Windows on the Steam Deck can make it a great travel PC that you can hook up to a monitor. This makes it a great feature for the Steam Deck, and one which has not been a part of any previous handheld gaming devices. So, kudos to you, Valve. New gameplay footage of Ghostwire Tokyo. Ghostwire Tokyo is an upcoming action-adventure video game currently being developed by the studio behind Evil Within, Tango Gameworks. Fans have been excited for the game, which is set to release on March 25. To further increase the hype of the game, we have gotten new 18-minute gameplay footage for the game on IGN's channel. Surprisingly, the game is not as horrifying as the initial trailer made it out to be. From the looks of it, the game is more of a supernatural stealth brawler in which you use your powers to detect enemies, sneak up on them, and take them down. The gameplay footage showcased our protagonist roaming around in first person and using hand-weaving techniques to employ powerful magical spells to damage the enemies. Not only that, but there seems to be spells that can also block any incoming attacks. With a Dishonored and Bioshock type of vibe, Ghostwire Tokyo is looking up to be quite the promising game, and we hope it can deliver just as well. That's a wrap for this video. Will you be using the Comet Azur spell? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.